My name is Toni Wiley, and I am an outreach counselor with KHEAA, not the car company, but Kentucky Higher Education Assistance Authority. So today we're coming to you virtually because of COVID-19, but part of what I do with KHEAA is we talk with families about steps through high school and especially the senior year. So the senior year is what we're focusing on right now, and I want to talk about paying for college. We call it Paying for College 101. And just to kind of let you know what we are and who we are. Okay, so just to tell you a little bit about who we are with KHEAA, Kentucky Higher Education just to tell you a little bit about who we are, KHEAA, Kentucky Higher Education Assistance Authority. We're the folks that, one, help with the KEYS money. We talk to students about helping build it up and then help them figure out how to spend it. So part of the ways that we help students are we do have a lot of resources. We have publications, and the seniors will be getting their book called Getting In this fall, and it has a snapshot page of every college in our state. It's a really good tool. Of course, we have the College Circuit. That's a book they've probably seen several years now, but it has outlined every year in high school what they need to do, things to kind of give them a heads up. It explains our KEYS money and some of the other grants and scholarships in our state. And then we also have a book coming out called Affording Higher Education, and we'll look at that just in a minute, that lists all the scholarships that we know about. So publications are one thing. We do have our website. That's where they can look at their KEYS money and check on the dual credit and work ready dual credit scholarships and see if they receive any of that grant money. And then we have counselors like me that come out and talk to your students and hopefully help them fill out the FAFSA, that free application for federal student aid, so that they can get money to help pay for college. All right, so let's talk about some of the big things that could happen during the school year. We do things like Close the Deal, which is where the students really make a commitment for what they're going to do. We have Kentucky College Application Campaign. That's going to begin pretty soon, anytime from August or November. A lot of our schools will have a day where we really talk about applying to the schools. And then in the spring, we'll have a college signing day when they've decided and made up their mind. In the fall, we have the FAFSA completion, and hopefully I'll be in the schools, be able to come in by then to help any students that want to have some assistance during that. So what should a student look for in a college? Number one, it needs to have the program that they want to study, right? So we want to make sure that they're looking at schools that offer what they want to go into. Then we look at other things like how close to home, how far away. A student may want to start having more of that independent life and be away 2 hours or more. And then we look at how big the campus is. Do they want to be a big fish in a little pond? Do they want to be a little fish in the ocean with a lot of things going on there? Those are things to look at. And class size. Are they good going into an auditorium where there may be 200 other students, or do they want that more one-on-one? A lot of these are things they're going to look at over the next few months. In the senior year, hopefully they've done some investigating already. But the senior year is a great time to get out there and really start exploring, and I can't emphasize enough, they need to go look at that campus. If you were going to buy a car and you had $10,000, you wouldn't say, here, Mom and Dad, I need 4 wheels and I like blue, get me a car. No, they need to drive that car. So it's very important that the students go out and visit the college campuses as soon as they can, because they need to see, is it a good fit for them? Almost all of our schools will give the students 1 or 2 days that count as an excused absence to go visit the school. They really need to try to do that when the school is open. Like, don't wait till Thanksgiving or Christmas break. It'll feel like Hogwarts with Harry Potter, nobody there at Christmas time. They need to go when the students are there. And this is really important too. When you're meeting with the school, of course you want to talk to the admissions team. They're going to let you know what that school has to offer and things to help you get set up. They may want to talk to a coach. They can set up to go and observe a particular class if they're interested in psychology or history or nursing, whatever it is. But there is a time when it's really good for the students to maybe go on a student-led tour by themselves. because that's where they're going to find out if the culture fits what they're looking for. And they can ask those personal questions they may not want to ask when mom and dad are there. So I really encourage going and looking at it. And now I want to show you how many choices we have in Kentucky, because we have got a ton. And of course, you're going to know about your community college and the big universities, but let's just take a look. In our state, we have 8 public universities: Eastern, Western, U of L, UK, Murray, Moorhead, all of those. But we also have private colleges, we have community colleges, we have schools that are based for seminary or technical. In our state, we have, I believe, about 76 colleges. In that Getting In book, one time I counted, and that's how many we had. We have a lot of choices in Kentucky. So my point is, as different and unique as your students are, there could be a college that's just perfect for them that they hadn't even thought about. When our son was at St. Catherine College and they closed the end of his junior year, we had to do this whole process over again. So be glad that we have the fall. We've got a lot of time to start looking, and our students don't have to really firm up until May 1st. I hope they will before then, but this is the time that they're going to start looking and seeing what's out there. So we want to let them know what could their choices be. And then we got to figure out how they're going to pay for it. So financial aid breaks down to 4 types. And what's interesting about that is when we think aid, assistance, help, we do the FAFSA, that free application for federal student aid, in October. Now, I know that seems crazy to do it in October when they're not going to go to school till next August, a year from now. But it really lets them get their ducks in a row. As soon as they hit that submit button, they know right then, do they get any of the federal money, any of the state money? We can tell them what they would get based on that federal. So now they know how much money they have to shop with. And that's going to make a big difference, because now they know how hard do they have to push for scholarships. Maybe they need to get a job, work on the weekends. What could they work next summer to help save up? Plus, I like to tell our seniors they get 3 hits of money their senior year, potentially. If their family knows that they're really looking for a college and that's what their goal is, they have birthday money, Christmas money, and graduation money. So we want them to know what their parameters are and where they're going to have to find that extra money. So let me break down the 4 types of financial aid. We have grants. Now, I like to say grants, think G for gift, G for grant. When we do the FAFSA, if things are tough at home financially, maybe there's not a lot of extra money, that's hard at home, but it means it could be good for these grants. It's going to open the window for that. And our federal government has grant money, our states do, and even the colleges set aside money that's a gift to help students out. Then the next part is scholarships. Now, this gets tricky because this is based on the students' skills, merit. Are they sharp academically? Have they scored really well on the ACT? Maybe they're an athlete, or maybe they're just super into business or politics. There are a lot of scholarships out there. Now, our great big ones, say Coca-Cola, or we had a student, I think it was from Hardin County, won the Dell computer. That's what my laptop is here. He won the Dell computer scholarship. That was like $10,000. So those giant ones are kind of in the fall, and our state universities, a lot of our colleges, may want your student to apply by December 1st, and their application puts them in that pool for scholarship money that way. So they really need to check deadlines for what they're interested in. But our local scholarships, and we have the Community Foundation here in Hardin County, they have tapped into businesses and organizations all around the area counties to help our students. So a lot of those applications don't begin until January. But that book I mentioned, Affording Higher Education, it lists everything that we know about. Now, there could be other things we don't know about, but the ones that we know that are specific to our counties here should be in that book, and it will give the students an idea of when the deadlines are and what they're looking for. So scholarships are based on the student. Now, work study, I want to touch on this one really quickly. When they fill out the FAFSA, it's going to ask, are you interested in work study? And I really encourage students to say yes. Now, it does not promise a job, and it does not mean if they take are offered a work-study job that they have to take it. But if they say, I don't know, they'll run out of jobs before they get to them. So I would say yes on the work-study. And here's the cool thing about work-study. It means they have a job at the campus. It could be in lawn and garden, landscaping. It could be making telephone calls. It could be stuffing envelopes. It could be helping in the dining centers. And they get some choice. So when jobs are offered, they can say, yes, I'd like it, or no, I wouldn't. My son got one at University of Cumberland to be the music librarian. So he photocopied music and filed it away. That was a great opportunity for him. And what I like about work-study is it helps them network with the people there. They get skill, experience, they get paid. And here's where the study part comes in. If they show up for that job and there's no work, they get paid to sit there and do their homework. So that's a really good thing. And to put it in comparison, if they have a local job in the community, and I'm just going to throw out two stores, Lowe's and Walmart, love them both. But during November and December, that is their peak season for Christmas. They want their employees working. They're not going to be as conscientious about that final that student may have the next day. Work study at the college, they know those students need to succeed. So they're going to work with them a lot more on that. Here's the last thing I want to say about work study. On the award letter, it may show they're going to get $1,500 for the year, okay, working about 10 hours a week, so it's not a heavy schedule. Here's the difference. With the grants and scholarships, that gets put on the bill right away. But with the work study, the student will get paid once a month for however many hours they work. Now, they got that check. They can use it for gas and pizza, and we know every college student needs gas and pizza to get around, and, it's pizza. But if they had intended to put it on their bill, and now they've used it that way, come the end of December when it's time to register for the spring, they may fall shy on their bill. So your student needs to know ahead of time, is this money going to go actually on my bill, or is it going to be money that I'm going to spend? You need to be aware of that. All right, and the last thing, and the reason we put it on the bottom, are student loans. If they don't need a loan, if they don't need the extra, don't take it, because they're going to have to pay it back. You really can't get around it. But don't be so afraid of loans that they don't go to college. Our son, and a lot of folks, maybe you just need this much. He needed like $2,000 a year. This lets him do it. And in our family, we made our son responsible for his own tuition. We helped out with books and food and all of that kind of thing, but we made him responsible for his tuition because we knew if he owned it, he would do better, and he did. He did great. But keep that loan down just as small as you can keep it, because they are going to have to pay it back. And when they graduate college, they'd much rather be paying for a car and apartment than to be paying on a student loan. All right, so where does this money come from? Well, when we do the FAFSA, that free application for federal student aid, first it's going to tell us right then from the federal government. And then that information will go to the colleges, to the state, and any of those organizations that have money would know if they could do it. We have private scholarships. That could be your Rotary, your Kiwanis, your Lions Club, the hospital, and then military benefits too. And when we look at military, this is something, and I know in Hardin County we have a lot of families that are involved in the military. They need to check with the parents, you all, when did you sign up for benefits? So it's different if it was pre-9/11 or post-9/11 or whatever you committed to. We had a young man that came and lived with us, and his father was in the military. He had 4 children and 4 years of college, okay? So each student got 1 year. Now the young man with us, he was receiving some other grant money and also some scholarship money, so he didn't need that GI Bill while he was working on his bachelor degree. He saved that 1 year for when he worked on his master's. So check with the family, check with what you've got going on, and there are a lot of huge benefits for military. You just need to know where it comes in with your family, and your VA resources would be a good place to check on that. Okay, private scholarships, this is what our new book looks like, our Affording Higher Education, and we do have those. They will be getting sent to all the guidance counselor's office, the school libraries, and the public library. It's kind of a pretty big fat book because it has all 120 counties in it. Now, you can look up your county, Hardin County, and see who's told us about scholarships in there. But also sometimes we have things like Salt River Rural Electric, where I'm from Bardstown, so it affects both Bullitt County and Nelson County. You can go to our website, KHEAA.com, KHEAA.com, and you can click on other sources, and then there'll be publications. You can click on that, and we can mail you one, but you can also look at the PDF online. And the good thing about that is you can search for your county, and so if there's a scholarship that maybe affected multiple counties, it will pull up you if you're looking at Hardin or wherever it is you live. So this is a great book. We have the hard copy of it. I don't want to say stingy in mailing them out, but it is a big book, so we don't send it out to every student like we do the Getting In. But it's got a lot of good resources in there to research. All right. This is what the FAFSA screen looks like, and that stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. We hope everybody will actually fill out the FAFSA, and the reason is your school may have money set aside for people that are maybe upper middle class, and they're not going to get the grant money that this taps into because they have too much, but it lets the school know what's going on. And here's the thing, for this year especially, when you do the FAFSA, it's going to pull your tax information from this last spring, that we had to do by April 15th or whenever you filed. It's going to pull it up for the year 2019, which I'm hoping was a good year for everybody, and this year could look a lot different. So we still have to use that original information, but if your circumstances have changed, especially due to COVID-19 or whatever, life happens, things change. So if you don't have the same kind of income this year that you had the year before, you have to use the year before information, and once it gets sent out, then you can contact the colleges and tell them you might be interested in looking at a professional judgment. And that is where they can look and really have that conversation, what's happened in your life, what's changed, and it could open up more money. But it starts with the FAFSA. We have to get that on there first. Now, to do the FAFSA, you're going to need to make an ID, and everybody needs to have their own email. Now, this changed when my son was in college a few years ago because I used mine for everything. A lot of times our seniors don't check their email. That's common. But they need to have one, and it needs to be a personal one, not the school email, because once they graduate high school, that's going to go away. So we want to have them have just a generic email that's personal to them, and we'll be making that FAFSA ID. We'll talk about that in a second. They need to know their social, and this is super important. Parents, we know they're going to need to know their social the rest of their life. The sooner they memorize it, the better, because their KEYS money is tagged to it. Any of this grant money is going to be tagged to it because it's unique to them. If they do the FAFSA with the wrong social, it's like they never did it. You cannot correct that, okay? You can correct the ID, but you cannot correct the FAFSA. So we need to make sure out of the gate they have the right number. All right. If they are an eligible non-citizen, then they would have that alien registration number they can use. We're going to be able to, parents, we're going to make an ID on you too, either mom or dad, whoever they live the most with, and if you're married, it can be either one. And we'll use that to pull over your tax information. So anybody helping, we're not going to see your tax returns or anything like that. It's just going to feed it in. But after you do it, it's going to want to know how much did mom make, how much did dad make, and if they're two income earners, it's helpful to have that tax return because you can look up the W-2s that way. It just makes it easy, but a lot of times we don't ever even look at it. It pulls it straight over. And then if you have assets, you may want to bring that information with you, and we'll talk more about what those assets are in a minute. All right, what is awesome now is our students can actually do it on the phone. Now, I say that with a caveat because it is awesome. They're not going to lose their phones. We know they're going to keep track of that. And they can get direct message that way. They have it with them. It's not like the old days where we'd make up these IDs, they'd put it in their pocket and go, and it'd be gone and we'd lose it. they don't lose their phone. So that's really nice that they can do the FAFSA on it. The bad part for me is I can't read their phones. It's too little, all right? But I'm really glad that they're trying to do that. So whether they use a laptop or their phone, we can pull it up either way. So a lot of times we like to do it on the laptop so we can see to help, but then they can access it on their phone, and that is just terrific. All right, let's talk about the ID. The ID is unique to each one. So they changed this when my son was in school, where I had to have an ID and he had to have an ID. So you need separate phone numbers, you need separate emails, because the best part about this is they can use their phone or their email to log back in. They may forget passwords, but having the phone, that proves who they are, so they can get right back into it. So I like to do the ID first because I like to be very efficient. So once they make their ID and you put all that information in and then you log into the FAFSA, it'll pull that over. So you don't have to type it twice, and you have less chance of a typo because you're pulling over the information you originally did. So they can make that ID anytime. They could do it now. We're not going to do the FAFSA till after beginning October 1st and beyond. But they can make their ID, and you can make your ID. And if you went to college as a parent anytime in the last 10, 15 years, it's going to remember you're in there most likely, okay? I will say this. We have had some issues now when students put in their phone number. It's going to say somebody else already had that phone number. Okay, and it's where people change phone plans like that. If that happens to you, there's a phone number you'll be able to call, and you need to call the FAFSA people and say, I have this phone number now. The other person this was tagged to doesn't have it anymore, and they can get it changed that way because you want to make sure you have it secured to your own student. All right. Again, when you're making this ID, passwords, here's my rule of thumb. Type with a college brain. So if you use as a security question, what city was I born in? Louisville, that comes with a capital L, right? Okay, so in one-word answers. It's really easy to forget what you put in. For example, if I was going to put in what was my elementary school, would I say Slate Run Elementary, Slate Run Elementary School? If you answer wrong 3 times, you're locked out for 30 minutes, okay? That's why it's really good to tag your phone, tag your email, because you won't get locked out for 30 minutes. But when you do those security questions, again, double check, always use the little I, click on that so you can see what you're typing, because typos are whooping to fix. But once you make the ID, that's half of the whole thing. The rest of it's a lot easier after that. All right, and the reason we do this, the FAFSA, is to see what kind of resources does your student have. And don't go into shock if it says the estimated family contribution is $6,000. They're not expecting a parent to sit down and write a check for $6,000. Your student living at home, you covering insurance, you're feeding them, doing their laundry, putting the roof over their head, that covers a lot of that money there, all right? But it is to see who needs assistance to help, and this is how we figure it out. So it's going to take the look at what that college is going to cost, how much resources are available to your student, and the difference is what is going to be the estimated family contribution or the need for the student. So direct costs are going to be tuition and fees, the housing, and food, because we all got to have that. Then indirect could be their transportation back and forth, books and supplies, and just miscellaneous things that happen. Once they figure that out, they're going to see what's the need for that student. We can throw some grant money in there to kind of fill that need. What are we looking at? And the colleges are going to look at that too, because when they see if a student is shy just a little bit, they may have another pocket of money somewhere to help out. But if they don't have an idea, they don't know where to start. So that's why we do this. All right. It is going to ask about your assets for the parents. It may ask. And just as a heads up, your home and your vehicles are not considered assets. You have to have those, right? So they're not something you could cash in to help a student go to college. But CD accounts, vacation properties, things like that, those are going to be considered as assets. Now, even a business is not going to be counted as an asset unless you have more than 100 people working for you, okay? And when we look at this chart, say the family has household income of $50,000 and they have $100,000 saved up in maybe an educational savings plan, and this does not include retirement, any kind of pension, 401ks, none of that. Those are not considered assets. But just say if you had $100,000, maybe you inherited something. It would only look at $4,700 out of that to help with your child's education. Now, if it asks what your students' assets are, and they have $10,000 in the bank because they worked a lot of money and saved up a lot of money, it is going to expect most of that to go toward their education because they feel like a student is being supported otherwise. So any extra cash they have is going to hit a lot harder toward their education plan than what the parents may have. All right. After you do this FAFSA, it's like crickets. You sit and wait and wait and wait. Well, when we hit the submit, you know right then if you got any of the grant money. But after that, it takes a while to get to the colleges, then the colleges have to process it, and some of them may not even send an award letter till January. Okay, some do, some don't. The main thing is you need to get it out there and get it tagged, get in that queue so that your child is in line in case there is something to help them out, okay? All right. Now, you may be selected for verification. Don't freak out. We want our government to verify things. If not, everybody would say, well, I don't have any money, give me all the free money, right? That's what would happen. So they got to verify. And here's the other thing. Sometimes students have typos. I have seen where a student listed his mother, who was a waitress, as her income was $123,000, not $12,300. Okay, so verification can check, was there something in there that just didn't look right? Or how many people are in the home? Sometimes students will list a lot of extra people in the home that really aren't part of that nucleus. So verification is just to double check. KHEAA actually does the verification for about maybe 11 colleges in our state, maybe more. So it's pretty easy going through the KHEAA account, but if it's one we don't do, you just follow what they're asking for, and it's just to clarify. So don't freak out. About 1 out of 3 families gets verified, so it's just a normal process. All right. This is the page. This page is literally from our college circuit book. It will also be in the Getting In book, but it tells you how much money could they get. So when we hit the submit on that FAFSA, we're going to know right then, are they eligible for part of that $6,300 some dollars? They might get all of it. They might not get any of it, but they could get $1,000 or $2,000. We don't know what that scale is. It's going to look at all those things. It even looks at the age of the parents, because the older the parents are getting closer to retirement, they know that you need to hang on to some of your money. So they're not going to try to have you spend all of it on your child's education. It calculates all that stuff in there. So the federal Pell Grant is up to over $6,000. And then I have to put my glasses on because I can't read the chart. Hang on. The other one would be the SEOG. Now that one could be up to $4,000, but most of the time the students that I've seen maybe get $400 or $500. Colleges are kind of meager at putting that out because they want to spread it as far as they can. And then we have maybe the Teach Grant, but that's going to be for students that are already into a program. There's the Federal Work Study Program, and again, that could be up to $1,500. It could go higher if your student is able to handle a workload and their education. So that one can kind of vary a little bit. And then loans. And here, I forgot to mention this earlier. Why would you consider a loan as financial aid? If you have to pay it back, why is that aid? Well, maybe something happened with the family. Maybe they've had to file bankruptcy, or they've had a lot of illness, or maybe somebody's laid off and there's just no way they can get a loan. Federal loans are offered to all seniors going in because they may need that money. That might be the only way they could make college happen. But again, we want to keep that as absolutely low as we can. All right, then here's our state aid, and we've got a lot of things going on. So I want to touch on a few of these. The first one is when you do the FAFSA, it'll tell you how much you may get from the federal government. It won't tell you how much you get from Kentucky because it's the federal form. But here's what we know in Kentucky. If your student even got $1 from the federal, that Pell Grant, they get all of the $2,000 if they're going to a community college, or $2,200 if they're going to a university. Okay, so that's an all or nothing. It's not on a scale. If they get anything from the federal Pell, they get all of that one. All right, that's good news on that one. And then the other one here, the Kentucky Tuition Grant, that one you might not get any of the federal Pell, which means you would not get any of the state cap grant. Maybe your income is middle class, upper middle class. If they decide to go to a private college, this grant kicks in and it's up to almost $3,000. Now, this one's really important. The student needs to tag at least one private college, and we've got 41 in our state. So they need to tag one of them, and it doesn't mean they have to go to a private college, but you absolutely want to check them, because both times our son picked colleges, we were in that pocket that it was more affordable for him to go to a private college, one, because of this grant, and two, because a lot of times private colleges have other money that they can help your student with. You really don't know until you start doing all this process. All right, I'm going to touch on a couple of these other things here, and I think they're on the next slide. Dual credit, yes. All right, while your student is in high school, as a junior or senior, they're allowed a lifetime up to 2 dual credit classes. That means it's one class that will count for both the high school and the college. So that could be in anything that your high school has a pathway for them to do. It could be history or economics or art or even yoga or welding. It could be anything. They get 2 per lifetime, and it can be either their junior or senior year. Now, this Work-Ready Dual Credit Scholarship, that's fairly new, and that one starts as early as 9th grade, but it has to be in one of those areas that are designed to get students a certification, a diploma, maybe up to an associate degree, and right into the workforce. And we have a lot of those areas. So they, I'll talk about that in just a second. All right. The KEAS money is in all of our books, and especially if you're new to Kentucky, be sure and check out the KEAS money. You can see that on the KHEAA.com website. Log in to look at your students. But in our state, due to the Kentucky Lottery, if a student has at least a C+ average for a whole year, beginning in 9th grade, they get $125, all the way up to $500 if they make straight A's. All of our students get that, one amount for each year of high school. So up to 4 hits, up to $500 each year. And then they also get a bonus for their highest ACT. So again, we want you to look at their KEAA account to make sure those scores are in there. Now, they only get one amount for the highest ACT. So if they take it again and it's better, we're going to go with the new score. If they take it again, it's the same or lower, we're going to keep the highest score. So it always is helpful to take it again and try to get as high as you can. They do need to have at least a 15, and they do have to have at least 1 year of high school where they made a C+ or better. All right? And then there is a way to get a bonus. This one is if they take an AP class or IB or one of these CAI, a college class that could count for college credit. It's a regular high school class, but if they take a special test at the end of the year and they pass it, then they could get this bonus if they are on free or reduced lunch. Now, if your school has everybody is on free lunch, that's not a qualifier. You actually have to do the paperwork to prove that they would be on this free or reduced lunch. Now, there's another reason to do that paperwork if things are tough, especially if COVID is hit. Do it because it lets them take the ACT 2 more times without having to pay for it. It lets them waive the college application fee to a lot of our colleges. So there are real bonuses in being able to do it. And the other thing is, let's say your student had an AP class their junior year and you weren't on free or reduced lunch. They paid for that test and passed it, and now they are on free or reduced lunch. We will go back and give them that bonus. So there's a good reason if things are tough. And I know a lot of people don't want to do it because their pride, they don't want to, and I understand that completely. But there are good advantages in a senior year. If it's been tough, that could help out. All right. So we add all that money together, And that's how much they get each year for 4 years of college, or 8 semesters. So say they have $2,000 in KEAS money, they get half in the fall, half in the spring, grades are good, they get it again the next year. So they begin earning this in their 9th grade, and they get to use it 4 years in a 5-year window, and it's automatic. It's automatically awarded to them just by them being in here and a Kentucky resident and a U.S. citizen, and it automatically goes to the college. When they do the FAFSA, as long as they tag a Kentucky college, it's going to go to them. And to get the full amount, they do have to go to college full-time. If they go part-time, they're only going to get half. And do you think they have to keep good grades to keep it coming? Yes, they do, because our state is always looking to spend that money somewhere else, so we need to know they're serious about it. All right, here's another thing about the KEAS money. Now, in our state, say a student just doesn't want to do book learning anymore. They want to go right on out into the workforce. If they decide to do an apprenticeship program that is approved, and most of those are approved through the Area Technology Center, but if they find one that they want to do and it's approved, they can actually use their KEAS money for that. And it can go toward clothes and transportation and tools, whatever they need with that approved program. All right, once they graduate high school, I want to touch on this real quickly. This is the Work Ready Kentucky Scholarship. So it's like that Work Ready dual credit when they're in high school, but this one is for after high school. And another reason why you want to do the FAFSA. Let's say you do the FAFSA and it shows that your family makes too much money. This scholarship here, if they choose one of those 5 areas, which would be like going into transportation, healthcare, advanced manufacturing, business and IT, or construction, if they go into one of those and they did not get enough money from the federal or state, this will kick into almost $4,000 to cover it. So, but we don't know that unless they do the FAFSA. All right, I want to show you a case study of a family that has a student that's a senior and a younger sibling and 2 parents, and the oldest is maybe around 46. When they hit that submit on the FAFSA, it says that their expected family contribution is $21.20. All right, if we take that away from the $63.95, it means that the federal Pell is going to give them $4,195. Now these tubes I have here, one is like the community college, and it shows that it costs $15,000 to go to community college. It doesn't. Don't freak out there. It might cost $15,000 a year to support your child. That's counting where they live, their food, insurance, transportation, everything. But the tuition is closer to $4,000, $4,400. So in this case, the $21.20 from the parents' expected contribution, they're living at home. And then the federal Pell is covering that difference, all right? Now it shows the 4-year public, if they live on campus, is about $24,000, and that is about right now. And then if the private college, it's showing around $39,000. But again, don't freak out over these numbers because there's money that could come in, all right? If they go to a Kentucky school and if they get any of that federal Pell Grant, they get all of that state cap grant, $2,000 for community or $2,200 for a big university, all right? If they go to the private college, they get almost $3,000. Do you see how these tubes are stacking up? This child going to a community college is actually getting money back. They're already getting money back. The one going to a 4-year public, they're working on the cost of tuition, but they still need to get the housing. Same thing with the private college. KEAS money, we're just going to say an average of $1,500. That community college student is getting money back. The other one, we're still building up on it. And now this is where the institutional grant, that could be, are they an athlete? Great ACT, super good grades. What are they looking at? Sometimes we don't see as much with the community college giving them money, but your universities, the public and private, can throw a lot of money in. And in this case, where it shows that big amount from the private college, that's where my son cleaned up. They gave him a lot more money. They gave so much. It was more affordable to go to a school that was a lot higher than the state institutions. It just depends on what your student has. So you don't know till you do this. All right, then now we've got some loan money in there. And for some, it might take that to make it happen. And then whatever the other remaining need is. So there could still be a gap. And then we need to figure out how we're going to fill that gap. All right, so here's a sample award letter. And it's just showing in this example the private college, saying that it's $39,000. Nobody ever pays that price. They don't. Okay, so if they got that Pell Grant of $41.95, you see half in the fall, half in the spring, your student is going to click accept. It's free money. They want it. Same thing with the state grant it comes across. And the Kentucky tuition grant, that grant for private colleges. KEAS money, of course they want that. We're accepting all those things. Now the institutional aid, and this is when parents can panic sometimes. They get an award letter before the coaches told the financial aid office they're giving a $4,000 scholarship to their student. So if you get that award letter and you know something's supposed to be in there but you don't see it, don't panic. Just call either your admissions, the coach, or the financial aid office and say, hey, we understand we're supposed to be getting this other scholarship in there, and they'll make everything connect, all right? Then coming down here, that loan, our students can borrow up to $5,500 their first year of college. In some cases, that is a lot. In some cases, it might not seem like a lot. But after 4 years, if they borrow that, they're going to owe like $25,000 just out of the gate at being 22 years old. That's a huge debt. So some of that money could be subsidized in that $5,500, and that means that while they're in school, the government's taking care of the interest. Unsub means that interest is accruing. They're going to owe more than what they borrowed when they get done because the interest is adding to it. Now, our son did not need that full amount, so he rejected the $2,000 unsub, and even the subsidized loan, $3,500, he reduced that down to just $2,000 because he didn't need more than that. And if they get more than that, they're going to spend it. Always, we all do, right? So if they don't need that much, this is a work in process, and it can change a lot between the first letter you get and the time that they are actually committed going to that college. More money could be found, things can happen, and especially if your income changed this year because of COVID or whatever reason. This is where we start seeing things happening. So it is a work in process. All right, then other options for filling the gap are going to be, if say they find they need $2,000, that's not an insurmountable amount. They can work the weekends. They can work in the summertime. They can have a giant graduation party. We did, big family. We threw a big one, and our son got a lot of money. So knowing what they're going to need helps you plan on how we're going to fill that gap. What can they do? Employer benefits. You may not be aware that your company actually does a matching scholarship or scholarship because nobody's had a senior for a while. Ask. And if they didn't, maybe they've been wanting to do something in the community, and this is a great way for them to do it. Sometimes churches will match scholarship. You don't know till you ask. This is your to ask and find out, because a lot of these things can renew, which means it's not just for the first year. And by the way, you do have to renew that FAFSA every year because our income changes every year. But if they get a scholarship or grant, find out, will it come back again, and what do I need to do to make that happen again, to come back? All right, and then there could be payment plans with the university. If you set up something to pay, say you have an $800 gap, and you think, well, I could do that, $200 a month, I could manage that for a semester. That doesn't affect your credit rating. That won't have any interest. That's something you work out directly with the college. Now, if you have a balance, they won't let them register for the next semester. So however you figure that out, you just need to be on top of it. Now, KHEAA does have a program called the Advantage Education Loan, and it's kind of like a shopping. So we look out, and right now we do have the better interest rates. So if you do have a gap and you feel like a loan is the only way to go, come to our website and check it out, because we've got a lot of good things there. We also have the Kentucky Savings 529 plan, and if you don't already have one, you could start one. It'd be a short year for it, but there are tax advantages for doing that. And if you have younger children or grandchildren, this is a good thing to set up for them too. All right. When they're in college, if you want them to get done in 4 years, They need to take at least 15 credit hours a semester. Now that's part of the advantage of doing the dual credit or work ready. They could have already built up some credits. That's what our son did, which gives them wiggle room to try other things while they're in college. But when they go to college, they need to go full time to get the full benefits of any of the grants or scholarships and target at least 15 credit hours a semester. Some colleges, it's the same even if they take up to 18 hours. And generally speaking, a college class is 3 hours for one class. If it has a lab, it might be 4 or 5 hours. Some classes could only be 1 hour, like if it's music or a sport. Sometimes those are only 1 credit hour, but they need to add up to at least 15. All right, we have a program on our website called Getting the Facts. I love this program. When we log into KHEAA, you can look at it, and it lets them shop up to 6 colleges. Now, it's not going to give you a price that you can take to the bank or a contract with that college, but it does give you a lot of good comparisons. What does this college charge for books? What does that one charge? What do they charge for room and board? What do they charge for tuition? It's a custom-made report. Takes about 15 minutes for your student to do, and we will mail them in the magazine. We did that. We got the magazine mailed to us, but we also did it where we could see the report right then, and it pulls it up. And you can put in colleges out of state or out of country. It'll shop all of them. It's a fun thing to do. This is what our website looks like, KHEAA.com, and when you see in that upper right corner, that's where you log in to look at the KEYS money. So it's super simple. It only asks like 8 questions. They need to know their social, have a personal email, and they can look and see their KEYS money. Please, 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 I always say I'm begging on my knees, have them check their KEYS money before they graduate. We don't want them to start college and find out they're missing something, because there is a deadline on when it can be fixed. So senior year, great time to get it fixed. All right. In our books, we have this page that shows kind of a timeline, what happens in the fall, what happens in the spring. It is kind of front-loaded to the fall right now. Finding the colleges, if we have any college fairs where they can meet a bunch of them at one time, visiting the school, applying to them, and doing the FAFSA. A lot in the fall. But it lets them get their ducks in a row so that by the time they graduate, they really know what they want to do and they have it set up, and it's not end up topsy-turvy right before they start college. Okay, to get more information, you can go to our website. We've got a lot of that in there. Any of our books have a lot of resources listed. We do have scholarship sites listed. A lot of things you can do, and your guidance counselors can reach out to the outreach counselors like me and the other 12 that are in the state. We are happy to come to the school when we can get back in, and come October, I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, we'll be able to come in and help you with the FAFSA. But if we can't do it that way, we're all adjusting, and I've done lots of Zooms now where we meet online and we can still walk through and talk through how to get these things done. It's an exciting year. I hope you have a great one. Just remember that KHEAA is out there to help, and any way we can help your students or you process all of this stuff. I know it sounds like a lot, and I know it's overwhelming, but it's really not. Think of it as an adventure and getting things ready so that they make the best emotional, financial, program, whatever they're going to go into decision they can for a year from now. All right, thank you for listening. I hope I've answered a lot of questions. And again, your senior counselors at your high schools know how to reach out to me, and I'm happy to help any way I can. Thank you very much.